Welcome to Shatter.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. It happened at brunch. One of those trendy spots she insisted we try. Avocado toast, overpriced lattes, the usual. I was halfway through a polite smile when she leaned back in her chair, locked eyes with one of her co-workers across the table, and dropped the bomb like she was quoting a line from a podcast. "You're just comfortable. Not exciting." Everyone laughed. Not loud. That low, knowing chuckle people use when they're pretending something's a joke, but they mean every word. Her voice didn't even change tone. She didn't look at me. She looked through me, like I was the waiter she didn't need anymore. I remember the clinking of ice in her mimosa, the sun bouncing off her sunglasses, and the guy across from her, Brian or Brandon, whatever, smirking like he'd already replaced me. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because that was the moment something in me shut off. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel shame. I felt nothing. Just this sharp, clean silence moving in like fog. Cold. Precise. The rest of the brunch? I don't remember. I paid the check, made some small talk, smiled when she posed for a selfie. She linked her arm with mine like we were still something. But I wasn't beside her. I was already somewhere else. That night, she acted like it never happened. Scrolled through her phone on the couch, laughed at some meme, tossed a babe in my direction without looking up. I stared at the back of her head and realized I didn't recognize her anymore. Not really. Not the woman who used to fall asleep on my chest. Not the one who cried when we adopted our dog. She had been fading for a while. I just hadn't wanted to see it. "You're just comfortable." That sentence replayed in my mind, over and over, like a skipped record. She didn't say boring. She didn't say distant. She said comfortable. Like I was a hoodie she wore around the house, but hid when company came over. I went to bed late. She was already asleep, turned to the far side, as usual. I didn't touch her, didn't say goodnight, just laid there and planned. She wanted excitement. She'd get silence. She wanted freedom. She'd learn what real distance felt like. Not today. Not with drama. This wouldn't be revenge. This would be removal. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I simply stopped. Stopped making her coffee. Stopped checking in. Stopped being available. From this moment on, I wasn't going to be her comfort. I was going to become a ghost. And by the time she realized it, I'd already be gone. I didn't have to go looking for confirmation. It came to me. 1 week after brunch, I stopped by her office. Nothing dramatic. Just dropped off the keys she said she forgot. I wasn't supposed to come inside. She thought I'd leave them at reception. But I didn't. I walked in. Quiet. Calm. That's when I saw him. Same guy from the brunch table. Brian. Or maybe it was Brandon. White button down. Too clean. That corporate fake charm in his eyes. He wasn't touching her, not exactly. But the distance between them? Too small. The way she leaned in, smiling with the corner of her mouth like she only did when she wanted something? Familiar. Way too familiar. They didn't see me. That was the gift. I left the keys at the front, walked out, got in my car, and sat with my hands on the wheel for 10 full minutes. Didn't start the engine. Didn't say a word. She didn't mention him that night. Acted like the day was normal. Told me about traffic. Complained about an email. I nodded. She didn't ask how my day was. She didn't notice my silence had shifted from quiet to calculation. The next day, I started my own list. Phone behavior. Check. Work schedule inconsistencies. Check. Overnight strategy sessions. Check. I wasn't angry. I was curious. It was like watching a documentary about a species you once thought you understood. She texted him constantly. I couldn't see the messages. She'd turn off previews. But the frequency? The way she smiled at her phone and tucked it under a pillow when I entered the room? He wasn't just a maybe. He was already in. And yet, she still kissed my cheek before bed. Still said, "Love you" out of habit. That was the part that made it all click. This wasn't about cheating. It was about comfort. She didn't want to leave me. She just wanted more. She thought she could juggle both. She thought I'd never notice. That's when I realized she wasn't afraid of losing me, because she didn't believe I had the capacity to leave. I was predictable, dependable, safe. That was her first mistake. The first real hit wasn't the affair. It was the shift in me. I stopped asking questions. Stopped offering to help with anything. If she needed something, she had to say it out loud. I never said no, but I stopped being one step ahead. She started noticing. Slowly. "You okay?" she asked one night. I looked at her, held the silence until she looked away. Yeah, I said. Just tired. She nodded, but I saw it in her eyes. Doubt. A flicker of it. I started spending more time at work. More time at the gym. I left early, came back late. No explanations. No accusations. She asked once, "You've been distant lately. Is something wrong?" I looked at her and smiled. Everything's fine. That was the moment she first felt it, the shift in temperature. She didn't know it yet, but I was already gone. Once you stop speaking, the world gets louder. You start noticing the small things. Patterns. Habits. The micro-expressions people think they're hiding. And she was slipping more than she realized. The first breadcrumb came from her smartwatch. She left it on the bathroom counter while showering. A message popped up, previewed just long enough. No name. Just a heart emoji and the phrase, "Last night was everything." I didn't flinch. I didn't take a picture. I didn't need to. I waited. That week, I took a day off work without telling her. She left for her client dinner. Said it would run late. I nodded, kissed her cheek like I always used to. Watched her drive away. Then I got to work. Laptop open. Emails accessed. Her password was the same one she used when we first moved in together. Nostalgic, really. Almost cute. Inside, it was all there. Travel confirmations. A reservation for 2 at a downtown hotel. A calendar event tagged creative debrief that aligned with a room booked under the same name. She thought she was clever. Thought changing his name to a single letter on her phone and deleting messages made her smart. But what she didn't know was that digital footprints don't disappear. They just scatter. Credit card history, dinner charges at places I'd never been, rideshare logs with pickup and drop-off times that didn't match her version of the story. Photos she thought she deleted still backed up to our shared cloud. I sat there, piecing together her lies like a puzzle. It wasn't just infidelity. It was the effort, the planning, the confidence that she'd never get caught because I was too comfortable to look. She had underestimated my silence. It wasn't surrender. It was surveillance. By the end of the night, I had everything I needed. Proof of the affair. Proof of the deception. Proof that the woman sleeping in my bed was playing house with a man she respected more than the one she married. But I didn't confront her. That's the part she never saw coming. I didn't scream. I didn't throw accusations. I printed 2 photos. Just 2. 1. Her kissing him in the parking garage. Grainy, time-stamped. 2. A selfie she sent him, still wearing the necklace I gave her last Christmas. I slipped both into an envelope and left it on my desk drawer, unsealed. Let her find it when the time came. Not now. Because now wasn't for explosions. Now was for erosion. I made coffee the next morning. Made hers, too. Just like I always did. She smiled, said thanks like nothing had changed. I kissed her forehead, watched her leave, and never told her I knew. That's when the power shifted. She still thought I was her comfort. But I was already preparing her extinction. Disappearing isn't about vanishing. It's about erasing your presence piece by piece, until absence becomes your new identity. It started simple. I stopped replying immediately. Texts sat unread for hours. Calls went to voicemail. Busy, I'd say later. No anger, just distance. Then came the nights. I left early for the gym. Came back late from work dinners. She never questioned it. Not at first. She assumed I was catching up on life, maybe reconnecting with friends. She didn't realize I was already halfway gone. The final straw? A weekend retreat I said I had to attend. I booked a cabin 3 hours out, alone. No phone. No social media. No GPS tracking. Just a note on the counter. Off-grid until Monday. She called 10 times that first night. Left voicemails. Texted everything okay? Then, I'm getting worried. Then silence. By the time I returned, she was pacing the living room. The panic was there, but hidden behind forced calm. She asked if I was okay. I said I was great. She asked why I didn't answer. I said I needed quiet. She stared at me like I was a stranger. Good. That night, she tried to lean into me, to reestablish something. Touch. Familiarity. But my skin didn't respond. My eyes didn't flinch. I let her hands sit there, waiting for warmth, and gave her none. The next day, I moved files off our shared laptop, created a new cloud account, quietly stopped syncing anything personal, set up a new checking account, transferred my salary, reduced the joint one to grocery money. She didn't notice. She still thought she had time. But I wasn't drifting. I was deleting. I unplugged from mutual friends. Stopped attending events she pushed us into. When asked, I simply said, "Work's been intense." And everyone nodded. No one suspects the silent man. Then I did something final. I changed the locks. Used security upgrade as an excuse. She laughed at first, called it overkill. I handed her a new key, watched her place it on her ring without thought. She didn't know it was a different system entirely. Her copy wouldn't work past one use. A one-way pass. Then, the quiet grew. She asked what was going on. I smiled. Said I was just tired. She asked if I was pulling away. I said I didn't know. She cried once. I didn't reach for her. That was when she truly began to panic. Not because I yelled. Not because I accused. Because I stopped reacting. I didn't need to say a word. She could feel the floor beneath her cracking, and still didn't know where the fault line began. By the end of that week, she had stopped sleeping, checked her phone constantly, watched me like I was a stranger squatting in her marriage. But I wasn't a stranger. I was the same man she'd been dismissing for months. Only now, she couldn't reach me. And that was just the beginning. Every man has a weakness. Hers was comfort. His was ego. His name was Ryan McConnell, a mid-level marketing manager with a personal brand built on buzzwords and filtered gym selfies. The kind of guy who pitched innovation while recycling other people's ideas. On paper, clean. In practice, sloppy. She thought she was trading up. He made her feel seen, exciting, alive. I made her feel safe. But safety never trends. So while she leaned into his validation, I leaned into his shadow. He liked to post, constantly. Gym selfies, client lunches, sunset walks. I studied him like a case file. Every post a clue. Every tag location a breadcrumb. In less than 2 weeks, I mapped out his habits better than he probably knew them himself. Then came the cracks. He'd recently gone independent, left his company with big words about building something real. The truth? He had 2 clients, both from his old job, and no legal agreements in place. Just handshakes and LinkedIn promises. I reached out to one of those clients. Anonymously. Asked a few questions. Informed them, again, anonymously, that Ryan had taken confidential data when he left. Not proven, of course. But suspicion was enough. 1 contract pulled. 1 revenue stream gone. No blood on my hands. I wasn't done. His gym? Luxury spot downtown. Month-to-month membership. I spoke to someone on the board. Shared some screenshots from his not-so-private DMs with one of the trainers. Nothing illegal. Just enough to raise an eyebrow. A pattern. Access revoked. Suddenly, Ryan had fewer places to flex. No press release. No confrontation. Just slow erosion. The kind you don't notice until you're ankle-deep in quicksand. Meanwhile, she was growing restless. Ryan wasn't answering as quickly. Wasn't as available. The newness was fading. And she, still clinging to the thrill, didn't understand why. I did. Because I was the one pulling the thread. She came home one night, tossed her bag on the counter, and sighed louder than usual. Said something about stress, about how people weren't who they seemed. I nodded. Listened. Let her spiral. She didn't know I had already replaced the oxygen in her little affair with smoke. And the best part? He didn't know I existed. Because I never reached out. Never threatened. Never even mentioned his name. I wasn't a jealous husband. I wasn't a rival. I was the storm he didn't see coming. By the time he realized his momentum was gone, his rhythm broken, and his reputation quietly bruised, it would be too late to trace it back to me. Because I wasn't in the frame. I was behind the lens. I wasn't destroying him. I was just removing all the things that made him look like a man worth losing a marriage for. And I did it without raising my voice. Not once. Reputation isn't built in silence. But it can collapse there. I never needed to expose her. All I had to do was stop protecting her. We had mutual circles, colleagues, neighbors, couples we'd known for years. People who saw us at barbecues, holiday dinners, double dates. They knew the surface version of us. The curated image she worked hard to maintain. So I stopped reinforcing it. It began small. I declined invitations. Left her to attend alone. When asked, I smiled and said, "She's been doing her own thing lately." That sentence carried more weight than anything accusatory ever could. At her best friend's birthday dinner, I didn't show up. She gave some excuse about a last-minute conflict. But I knew better. People noticed. Not because I made noise, but because I didn't. When you remove presence from a shared narrative, people fill in the blanks themselves. I didn't offer explanations. Just silence. Polite, composed silence. It didn't take long for questions to form. One night, her sister called me. Asked if we were okay. I said we were figuring things out. No details. No bitterness. Just space. She must have felt it, this subtle unraveling. Because suddenly, she was trying harder. Bringing up my name in conversations. Posting old photos of us on social media. Throwback captions about love and growth. The kind of thing meant to rewrite a story already ending. But no one bought it. Because the people who mattered, they weren't commenting. They were stepping back. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. A dinner at her parents' house. Tradition. Sunday roast. Always formal. Except this time, it was different. Her mother glanced at her phone during dessert. Face changed. Froze. I didn't look. 10 seconds later, her father cleared his throat. Asked her about someone named Ryan. Just his name. She went quiet. Not defensive. Not surprised. Just quiet. That was the crack. No shouting. No accusations. Just tension thick enough to suffocate the room. She tried to recover. Said he was a colleague. That someone had misunderstood something. But the room was colder now. Her parents weren't naive. They'd always liked me. Respected me. Knew I kept things together. And now, they sensed what I had known for months. She wasn't who they thought. After dinner, her mother hugged me longer than usual. Said, "If you ever need anything," and let the sentence die. She didn't need to finish it. Back at home, my wife slammed drawers, moved through the kitchen like a storm bottled too tight. But I said nothing. Because the damage was done. Not by me. By her own hand. I just moved out of the way and let gravity work. She was unraveling now, not in isolation, but in public. And I didn't need to raise my voice. Her silence with everyone else was louder than anything I could have said. The thing about silence is that it doesn't scream. It waits. It tightens its grip slowly. Until you wake up one day and realize no one's listening anymore. Not because they're cruel, but because you made them stop. That's where she was now. Alone, but not abandoned. People still answered her calls. Still liked her photos. Still smiled politely. But the tone had shifted. The warmth had gone. Conversations stayed shallow. Plans became vague. Invitations started accidentally skipping her name. Even Ryan, her little escape plan, was growing distant. His messages came later. Less frequent. The attention that once intoxicated her now felt like a ghosting on repeat. And me? I was still there. Still waking up in the same house. Still moving through the same rooms. But I wasn't present. She'd speak. I'd nod. She'd reach. I'd step just far enough away. I didn't argue. I didn't provoke. I gave her exactly what she'd asked for months ago, without saying the words. Space. And now, she hated it. Because space with no bridge back feels like exile. I'd see her checking her phone more often. Refreshing. Waiting for someone to pull her out of the hole she dug. But no one came. Because the ones who could have saved her, she'd already alienated. Lied to. Used. The day she broke was a Tuesday. She came home early. Makeup smudged. Eyes glassy. Said nothing. Just dropped her purse, sat at the kitchen island, and stared at me. Waiting for something. A reaction. A question. A hand reaching across the gap. I kept washing dishes. She finally spoke. Said she didn't recognize herself anymore. That everything felt off. Everyone felt distant. I dried my hands. Said maybe it was time she got to know herself again. That's all I gave her. No warmth. No comfort. Just reflection. Because this wasn't about punishing her. This was about removing her safety net. She had built an identity around control, curating how people saw her, scripting how they responded. But now, every thread she'd pulled was unraveling, and she didn't know how to stop it. She cried that night. In bed. Thought I was asleep. I wasn't. I heard every sob. Didn't move. Because tears don't undo choices. And I wasn't there to save her from consequences. I wasn't angry. I wasn't cruel. I was simply done being available. That's what scared her most. Not the affair. Not the loss of image. But the realization that she couldn't get to me anymore. That the man she once dismissed as comfortable had become untouchable. And every day that passed, she slipped further into silence. While I stood calmly in the middle of it, untouched. Some people don't change until they lose their audience. She didn't break until she realized I wasn't watching anymore. It happened late. Quiet night. No storms. No arguments. Just the sound of a woman who finally understood she was talking to a man who no longer listened. She waited until after dinner. Cleaned the dishes like it meant something. Lit a candle. Sat across from me at the kitchen table and said my name like it was the last thing holding her together. Her voice was small. Hesitant. Like she didn't know how to speak without performance. She said she missed me, said she felt lost, said we could talk. I stared at her. Not cruel, not cold, just honest. And for the first time, I think she saw it. Not anger, not pain, just distance. She kept going. Said she made mistakes. Said she wanted to rebuild. That she'd cut ties. Go to therapy. Delete numbers. Start over. She reached for my hand, and I let her touch it. But I didn't close the gap. I said one thing. Why now? She blinked. Didn't answer. Because there wasn't one. Not a real one. She didn't come back because she missed me. She came back because no one else stayed. Because Ryan was gone. Because the validation dried up. Because her friends stopped clapping. She didn't miss me. She missed having a place to land. And I wasn't a landing strip anymore. I stood up. Walked past her. No anger. No scene. She followed me down the hallway, asking questions. Voice rising. Then breaking. I didn't yell. I didn't explain. Just paused at the door to the guest room, turned back, and said, "You want closure? I'm not here for that. I already closed it." That's when her face changed. Not sad. Defeated. Like the final door had locked, and she realized she didn't even have the key. That night, she didn't come to bed. I heard her on the floor of the hallway, sitting in the dark. Maybe hoping I'd open the door. Say something. Reach out. I didn't. Because it wasn't a game. This wasn't revenge. This was clarity. And it came with silence. The next morning, I made coffee. Didn't pour hers. Left it on the counter. Watched her walk in. Pause. Look at the empty space next to my cup. She didn't speak. Neither did I. Because that moment said more than anything we could have screamed in a fight. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. She was asking to be seen again. But I'd already stopped looking. I hadn't disappeared. I'd just stopped showing up where I wasn't respected. Collapse doesn't come like an earthquake. It creeps in like mold. Quiet. Slow. Relentless. She didn't unravel all at once. It was piece by piece, like watching a castle rot from within while the flag still waves. After the confrontation, she tried for a while. Reached out to friends. Tried to restore her image. Posted hopeful quotes. Spoke about growth. But it landed flat. Because people didn't believe it anymore. They sensed what I already knew. She wasn't rebuilding. She was scrambling. Ryan? Gone. Not blocked. Just unavailable. Like he'd never existed. Her messages unread. Her calls missed. She never said his name again, but I caught the way her shoulders flinched when a notification didn't come. Her job? Still there. But her energy had shifted. Colleagues started keeping their distance. Projects reassigned. Whispers behind conference doors. Not about the affair, about her instability. Because people always notice the cracks. They just wait until they're safe to admit it. Family. They were polite. But something in the way her mother avoided eye contact said more than any confrontation could. She stopped asking about me, which meant they already knew where the fault line was, and they chose not to pry. She was alone now. Not because everyone left. Because she pushed while expecting someone else to catch her. And I wasn't watching. I was moving. A new place. New key. New city. Quiet transition. No announcements. I left her a note. Not dramatic. Just one line. I've taken everything that's mine. And I had. Bank accounts. Cleaned. Documents. Removed. Shared subscriptions. Canceled. Closet. Empty. The home we once built. Now just a shell she wandered through like a ghost clinging to echoes. The last time I saw her, she was standing in the driveway. I'd come back for one final thing. Something small, irrelevant. But she stood there like it was everything. She asked if this was really it. I nodded once. No rage. No goodbye. Just finality. She reached for me. Not physically, but with her voice. Said she didn't expect this. That was the only time I laughed. Not loud. Not cruel. Just that short exhale you let out when someone says something too honest by accident. Because of course she didn't expect it. She never believed I'd stop being comfortable. She never saw the exit coming. Because it wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was clean. Surgical. Complete. The collapse wasn't mine. It was hers. And I didn't push. I just stepped aside. Endings aren't always loud. Sometimes they feel like the air leaving a room. No bang. No crash. Just stillness. That's how it ended. No court battle. No fight over dishes or who gets the couch. I let her keep the house. The furniture. The framed pictures still hanging in hallways that used to mean something. She could have all of it. Because none of it had me in it anymore. I moved out quietly. Sent paperwork through the lawyer. Neutral. Efficient. Her name removed from accounts. My number scrubbed from shared platforms. One by one, every thread cut. Not with spite, with precision. I heard she told people it was mutual, that we just grew apart. Let her have that. Dignity is a mask too. And by then, she needed one more than I did. She called once. Not to apologize. Just to talk. I didn't answer. Didn't block her either. Let the silence speak. Because some lessons echo louder when they meet nothing but stillness. I rebuilt slowly. New apartment. Bare walls at first. No traces of before. Just air. Light. My own rhythm again. I started running again. Picked up sketching. Things I let go of when I thought being a partner meant being background. Turns out, I wasn't a man who lost himself. I was a man who paused himself. And now I was back. People started noticing. Friends who hadn't heard from me in months asked if I was okay. I was better. Clearer. Lighter. I wasn't explaining what happened. I didn't need to. The way I moved now, that was explanation enough. Somewhere along the way, I saw her again. Not face to face. Just from across a parking lot. She didn't see me. But I saw her. Phone in hand. Alone. Waiting for someone. Maybe a ride. Maybe a message. Maybe something that wouldn't come. And for a moment, I remembered who she used to be. Who we used to be. But only for a moment. Then I turned away. Because nostalgia is just memory wearing perfume. And I didn't need to smell the past to know I'd outgrown it. I walked on. No music swelling. No dramatic exit. Just steps forward. Because when you stop needing closure, you become the closure. She's probably still telling people I vanished. That I just walked away without a word. Let her. The truth is simpler than that. I didn't disappear. I just stopped showing up where I wasn't respected. And I never looked back. What would you have done in my place? If the story hit you, leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe. It only gets stronger from here.